You know, the left side of the, and this episode called Waking Up to the Woke, right? The left side of this argument, or this issue, we'll call it, they are really great at organizing. And one of the things I learned actually going through close protection training, there was a specialist on activist threat. We were dealing with animal activists, Animal Liberation Front and PETA and stuff like that. And one of the things that he was saying is that these activist groups, they pool resources. They actually share protesters. So like one Saturday, you'll have a Black Lives Matter protest. And then the next Saturday, there'll be a PETA protest. And then there'll be like a Extinction Rebellion protest the next week. And it's like the same faces because they pool, they kind of do, they all help each other out. And the same where you'll have in the unions, you'll have like teachers protests on behalf of nurses and then vice versa. And they share that, and they draw from the outside, right? So you're right. You can't just limit if you're running in Westlock or you have an issue in Westlock, maybe it's only residents of Westlock that can actually have a vote or a say when it comes down to brass tacks. But like you said, someone paid for your signs, other people helped you door knock, and we really need to kind of pull together in our outside communities to do that. So I really like that you draw attention to that.
Yes, and like from the perspective of being that outsider coming to help with an initiative. So for example, in Calgary, a very enthusiastic group was working on a recall campaign. Well, one of their best volunteers collecting signatures for that didn't even live in Calgary. They came from outside, they believed in the movement and came and supported it because this individual had time to go around and collect signatures. And so even for example, right now, there's a movement in Sturgeon County. Sturgeon County Council has approved a development on the south side of Sturgeon County, which basically touches Edmonton and St. Albert. And this development is very concerning. Part of the development is going to take farmland and transform that farmland into high density housing. And so there's people who live in Sturgeon County, they move there because they like the rural lifestyle. They like the scenery, they like the peace and quiet, they like no crime. And suddenly this area, which is farm yards and acreages, is going to be transformed into an urban, densely populated area. So there's a group called SaveSturgeonCounty.com, and they're organizing pushback, and I'm helping them. So it's not my municipality, but it's on my heart to go help them with their momentum. Because for all we know, at a later date, maybe Westlock or Westlock County, where I own some land, is going to have issues like that. And maybe those folks from Sturgeon County will come help me too. So we need to get out there and help the individuals and groups that are doing good work, no matter where they're located.
It feels like a lot of these issues, whether it be this one in Sturgeon County with the high density housing, taking over farmland. I've heard, I just heard someone say that in Cochrane, Ontario, the mayor of the town, mayor and council, basically annexed some farmland as well to do the exact same thing. So this is happening everywhere, not just in Alberta, across Canada, and probably elsewhere. And it feels like it really does feel like a domino effect, that if that first domino falls, the rest are going to fall. And if you can stop that first one from falling, you can prevent that chain reaction. So yeah, I do really think it's super important to get on these and to go, you think, oh, that's Sturgeon County, that has nothing to do with me way up here or way down here, or that's another province or whatnot. But it's coming to you as well, right? It's just, it might not be there first.
Well, there's definitely a push towards reducing the resources that are in rural areas. So for example, there's a push to close schools in hamlets. There's a push to reduce resources and try to encourage people to live in the cities. And I disagree with that push. I think we need to be supporting these rural areas. In fact, in some cases, more people should move to the rural area and support it. It's a great lifestyle living in these smaller towns. It might not have every aspect that a city has, but it still has a lot of wonderful things. And I feel like we somewhere there, I don't know if we need a protect the farmland bill or what we need, but we need something in this province that recognizes that if we allow densification and urbanization to just grow, well, at some point we now can't grow grain and we can't have cows, right? There's going to come a time where we can't. Like Alberta, we are so blessed here. We have so much wonderful farmland that we don't just have enough to produce for ourselves. We get to produce for others as well. We have great exports. Let's keep that. if we have too much urban growth, we're going to lose that. We need that. I mean, to me, I think food is one of the most precious resources. Don't you, TJ?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we got into growing our, like, well, we came from Toronto basically, where everything was bought from Costco or the grocery store, up to here where we're now able to, like, next on Saturday we're going to be going to till the garden and you know, put what we can in there. We're dealing up here with water restrictions right now because of the fire season. So actually, we just ordered some rain barrels. So hopefully we can kind of get those full and, you know, help mitigate that. But yeah, I would absolutely encourage people, like you said, to move out to the rural areas, to support the rural areas, because it's absolutely beautiful, especially here in Alberta. No, not knocking the other provinces, but we do live in the best province, in my opinion, and the most beautiful province, also in my opinion. Cities like Edmonton, Calgary, maybe even Grand Prairie, Lethbridge, I'm not really too familiar with, but I'm sure they have larger councils and they may have a larger turnout of candidates and a larger turnout of voters. But just out of curiosity, in that by-election or in the election that you had for Westlock, how many voters turned out to vote for councillors, mayor, etc.?
I believe it was between 1,200 and 1,400. And Whoa. So that was an okay turnout for a by-election. Actually, in a sense, I think that was high. I think previous by-elections had less of a turnout, but I had done everything I could to raise a fuss in December with my signs and with my brochures. So my brochures didn't just say, you know, hey, vote Benita. My brochures helped to raise awareness that on November 27th, our town council signed us on to something called the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities.
Familiar with that.
Yeah, they did this at the November 27th meeting immediately after doing first reading on the bylaw on neutrality and immediately after scheduling the plebiscite. The next item on the agenda was resolution to join the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. So what I did is I exposed this in my campaign paperwork in December and January as I'm going door to door, because I want more people to realize that the current town council has just signed us on, in a sense, with the United Nations. Like, this municipality has agreed to take guidance on policy from the United Nations. And there's so many people, they don't pay attention to what's going on at the town council meetings. They're not reading the minutes. They're not reading the agendas. They're not reading the agenda packages, which sometimes are 400 pages. Yeah. There's not enough people engaged. And so I like to think that my campaign helped to get people engaged, whether they like me or whether they don't. They came out to vote. So that's good.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're right. Not a lot of people do pay attention, and I found it, like, actually surprising when you said 1,400 or 1,200. You said 1,400 came out to vote, right? Was that about right?
Yeah, it was between 1,200 and 1,400. Right. Yeah, that's actually quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because in especially in a by-election, I suspect that probably because of the heat that was generated because of the issue at hand in terms of the crosswalks, that there's probably a lot of a call to action on the other side of things to kind of vote against you and to vote down the policies. And then conversely, people on our side of things were like, okay, well, if they're going to, we got to go because we got to defeat this. And there was a buzz generated and probably there was a large turnout. We had an open town hall actually in our town just on some Monday night or just like a couple days ago. And they said it was the largest turnout they'd had in 8 years. And but it was because there's some hot topics, hot topics on the docket, right? But I've been to some town council meetings where there's only 3 or 4 people sitting there, and we had a local business owner. He's also intertwined with the Pride Society and kind of the Gray Straight Alliance, all these things, and they were trying to push, and they presented to council to bring forth our town to come into line with to sign on to the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. And so I did some digging on the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. I sent my email in. I showed up at the town council meetings while they were talking about this issue. And really, it's not hard it's inconvenient. It's boring, yes. But really, we have a town of less than 2,000 people. So we'll call it 1,900. And we have 4 or 5 people showing up to these council meetings. It's kind of crazy. And then people don't vote in these elections, these by-elections particularly. And there was one of the counselors had been acclaimed, one of the good ones actually, had been acclaimed as counselor, and the other side was complaining, oh, well, no one voted for you. You didn't even get one vote. How are you a counselor? She's like, well, I was acclaimed. And that means that nobody ran against her. So nobody's running in these elections. Nobody wants to do the dirty work, and nobody wants to come out and vote. But then they want to get their panties in a bunch when things don't go their way. So you're absolutely right. People do need to be engaged. And if they want something to happen, the future belongs to those that show up for it, right?
That's right. And voting alone is not enough. Like we have to do so much more. We need to, sometimes some of us need to step up and run for office. If you're not running for office, help with at least one campaign. October 20th of 2025 is not that far off. And there are things we can do now, even if you don't have all your candidates figured out, there's things we can do now to help to have a positive outcome on every school board and on every municipal council. And one of those items is join one or more organizations in your community. So at least one organization, which is sort of a board, like the Municipal Planning Commission or the Library Board, and then join a club of some sort, something you would enjoy. It could be sewing, it could be basketball. But join a club where you're going to meet people who maybe don't yet share your values. Build relationships in those groups over the next year. And then as we get close to that October 20th, 2025 election, now you've got a whole new circle of people you might be able to influence to vote for your candidate. Or if you're the one running for office, maybe they've come to like you and trust you, they vote for you. So we all need to be joining more groups now, not just our little freedom groups. We really need to get out of that and join these other groups and integrate more. I call it Operation Integration.
Yeah, everything, I've said this 100,000 times, and I'll never stop saying it because it's just true, that everything rises and falls on relationship, and not relationship through social media or through internet or through whatever. It's like person to person, having a coffee with a person. Like you said, going to that sewing class or whatever, playing pickleball is a big one, like whatever. Build relationships with people, and that's what's going to actually have the actual change. I absolutely like that. I love that suggestion. I like the name Operation Integration for sure.
Yeah, relationships are key. It's funny you mentioned pickleball, because just the other day I went to the Westlock Rotary Spirit Center where they have pickleball courts. So I was checking that out. But my main reason for being there was they were having a community engagement session, and they were talking about the municipal development plan for the next 20 years. So they had all these posters on display with all of these ideas. And I took that opportunity to express concerns. So the first way they allowed us to express our concerns was they gave us a little sticky note and a Sharpie, and we could write on the note and then stick the note on the board. So I did that. So I was there for a good hour reading this stuff and writing my responses. Then I did a Facebook Live for 35 minutes talking about it. And then I spent about 45 minutes with one of the reps there, and we went through every board and I presented to her my concerns. Because to me, it wasn't just enough that I write it on the board. What if that sticky note falls off or someone takes it off? Well, then they haven't heard my concern. So I made a point of talking to her, and I took up a lot of her time, but she allowed it. And then the mayor showed up at the event. Some of the counselors showed up at the event, and I could see they were walking around the boards and they had seen what I had written. And so I didn't get to talk to all of them, but they at least saw what I wrote. And so there's these opportunities for community engagement to engage with administration and elected reps, and we need to grab them, but do it not in a unpleasant way. Do it in a professional way, yet be persistent.